Hey y'all, I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate, and we are Real Estate Elevated. Today's episode of I'm Moving to North Carolina, Now What? Is tackling a big topic that we get asked quite often. Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? So let's dive into the big differences between the two. So starting with the seller's market, which here in the triangle, this is currently what we're in. One of the big facets of a seller's market is low inventory. And what that means is typically there's a number associated with it. So for right now, we have 1.7 months of inventory, meaning that if all of the buyers who are out there are searching for a home, we will run out of options if every single one of those homes gets procured before all of the buyers actually find a place to live. So a low inventory market creates lots of competition. You have lots of buyers vying for the same property. So economic growth and job creation is also a big aspect of a seller's market because again, you're building lots of opportunity, which means more people coming in, think relocation stuff. And that's going to help drive that market and create even more competition than there was to begin with. The third thing is if you have low interest rates or mortgages. So the market we just came from in 2021, you had not only the low inventory, but also historically low interest rates hitting the upper twos, low threes, which really created a lot of turnover in properties here in the triangle. This was something we saw throughout the entire United States. So if we see another interest drop anytime in the near future, I do foresee that driving home the seller's market even more than we already have right now. The fourth thing is going to be looser lending restrictions or easier to find mortgage financing. So sometimes you'll actually see this with a lot of our new construction options where maybe their in-house lender, who's technically a third-party site, if they're trying to drive purchase prices and drive contracts, you might see a lower than average interest rates. For example, in some new construction communities right now, we're seeing a 5.5 interest rate, which is significantly different than what you're going to see otherwise. The last thing is low new construction development or a slow pace of housing turnover. So when that happens and new construction has not caught up with the market yet, again, it's only adding to that problem of low inventory. Here in the triangle, we have a ton of new construction coming down the pike, but it has not quite caught up with the low inventory. So that 1.7 months of inventory is really playing against where new construction is at this rate. So let's flip the tables and talk about our buyer's market. So keep in mind, I've been talking about the seller's market, which is what we're currently in. Let's flip the tables and talk about a buyer's market, which is kind of what we saw right after the housing crash in 2008. And it built from there into creating a market where buyers had a lot more negotiating power and then some. So the first thing is high inventory. So anytime you have a supply that's over 6 months, that's a buyer's market. So think 1.7, 6 months, we're not quite there yet or anywhere close. The second thing is if you have an economic downturn or any type of recession, sometimes that can push into a buyer's market. I think that's one of the things that's really playing with people's mentality right now is we saw such an aggressive market in 2021 and even parts of 2022 that people thought that that turn meant that we were entering the buyer's market. We're still not quite there, but you can see where people's heads are at. The third thing is high interest rates. So I know that, again, going back to historical data, we had that low of the high twos, maybe the low threes of interest rates, which are the lowest they've been in decades. And then comparing to where we are now at about the 7% mark as of today's airing date. If you were to compare those two, that increase in interest rates, again, makes people think, okay, we're in a buyer's market. Think back to the 80s and some other markets where they were hitting in the teens for interest rates. We're not quite to that level of inflation yet. So just make sure that when we're comparing apples to apples, we're talking about historical versus just 2-year difference time. The other thing is the oversaturation of new construction homes. So like I mentioned a second ago, new construction has been really trying to advocate pushing forward, creating new communities, and really getting a lot of product out there. Unfortunately, because of supply chain and some other issues, new construction took a long time to catch up. This is also why you saw things like bidding wars and contract prices shifting and changing where the buyer was kind of left holding the bag on the new contract price. We saw that in previous years. New construction, while it's calmed down a little bit, it's still super aggressive in the fact that the inventory has not caught up. So we do not have the oversaturation of new construction. that you do see in a buyer's market. So if you're comparing these two things, keep in mind where we're at now in the running list of buyer's market versus seller's market. This will also help you craft an amazing contract, use your negotiating power to your benefit by adhering to what type of market you're in. We don't want you to get your expectations too high or too low based on not understanding the type of market that you're actually competing in. I'm Laura Richardson with Relevate. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can follow along for more tips, tricks, and information on moving to North Carolina. You can also listen to us on Spotify and podcast everywhere. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.